Okay, let's talk about whether you should build a personal brand versus doing a faceless account when it comes to social media and stuff. And this might seem like more of a beginner question, but for those of you first starting out, or if you're halfway through your journey, maybe what I'll share might spark some new insights for you so that you can, see from my experience, from what I've done, since for over the past 7-8 years in building from faceless accounts, transitioning to personal brand, what the pros and cons are. So with a face and personal brand, it's easy to build trust and make sales. Think of all the biggest brands in the world like Apple, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk with Tesla and whatnot. All the brands that has a face to it, they skyrocketed really fast, way faster than faceless brands, And building a personal brand is a long-term asset that compounds over time for you. Meaning if you build a personal brand right now and you have a strong personal brand, this would last you for decades to come, if you have a lot of goodwill in the market and people trust you, they'll keep buying from you, The con is you gotta think hard about this, it's a one-way street door, once you put yourself out online, it's very difficult to reverse it. And they call this there's this sort of velocity, there's this sort of line that once you cross it in your personal brand, it's almost really difficult to undo or delete yourself online, So I didn't put much thought through this, but now that I can look back at hindsight, this is what I'm gonna share with you. Once your personal brand gets big enough, you can't reverse it, those digital footprints, you're out there online permanently, And that can be in a range of social media articles. Even if you take all those down, that might be other people, writing about you and stuff. So it's always online. Next is, cancel culture, critics, expose culture is very rampant on social media now compared to 5 or 10 years ago. Because now when a lot of people are trying to grow their own social media channels, and they use a lot of clickbait and clickbait sort of videos just to try to criticize others or just to use people's names to get traffic for their own website or their own agenda that they're trying to sell. So it has become a very cultural norm nowadays. So you can see this is way rampant, way more common right now compared to 5-10 years ago. So this is a difference, when it comes to building a personal brand right now. You're way more vulnerable to a lot of even unnecessary sort of critics, even if it's not true, people try to, criticize you of something that might not be even true or whatnot, People create a TikTok video about you or all that kind of nonsense, So you need thick skin as well for this. And, if you want to try and attempt to build a personal brand, you can do it at a certain level. But once you pass a certain threshold where you're big enough, when, other people start talking about you and stuff, you can't reverse that, So faceless, when do you want to go faceless? When privacy, safety, and anonymity is your utmost important, or if your employees are not favorable of it, or you don't want your colleagues or your bosses or your managers to know that you're doing this on the side, or if you're not allowed to. The cons is your focus needs to be way more on your company, your product, your community over you, Let's say your community, I can see that a lot of digital products on IG right now, and a lot of it you don't even know who the founder is, but the product name is so strong, I'm not gonna name who, but if IG accounts that are reselling products, you can see the product name first, but you don't even know who the founder is behind this, So this is where your focus is on the company, the product, the community. Take for example, entrepreneur organization, EO, or let's take YPO, Young President organization, or Chief, where all the women executive join. There are a lot of brands out there, a lot of products, a lot of companies that centered around the community, around the people, around the company, the product focus over you. So that's what your focus got to be, if you're trying to do it faceless instead. And it takes longer to build trust and convert sales, so you just got to keep that in mind. So what's the best fit? There's no right or wrong answers. As a wise saying goes, there's no right or wrong. There are only pros and cons in this world. And you can always start either with a personal brand or faceless, then pivot over time, So you don't have to worry once I do it, I can't change. You can do either. But just know that once you do your personal brand, there's only a certain threshold before you get big enough that you can't reverse it, Or if you want something more in the middle, you can do things that don't put yourself out there so much, Because if you're constantly posting on social media, once you go viral and stuff, that's where people will notice you and stuff. But let's say you start like a restaurant business, you might feature the owner on the website, or let's say you start like a, social media, like a consulting company and stuff. You still put yourself out there, but not as much. So these are like the other sort of income streams, business models, side hustles that you still gotta put your face out there to build more trust, but it's not as extreme as building like a full-fledged social media brand, like I've done all of this. Like for example, there are a lot of brands where like clothing brands or drink brands or whatever, like the owners still put themselves out there. They still create some content with their face out there. They still put themselves on their website, but it's not just like an account where they're constantly just posting videos of them talking, So that's where like the personal brand stuff is to a certain limit and doesn't put yourself out there too much, So you can either, if you want something that's in the middle to play safe, you can either do other business models that we teach, like UGC, user generated content, where you create videos for brands instead. You don't have to put yourself out there too much, or start like an AI consultancy or agency where you still feature yourself on the website, but you're not posting on social media with your own face constantly, and you're not reaching the mass market, where personal brands are irreversible. That's where like you make very generic content where you reach like any Tom, Dick and Harry, then they repost your videos, they make videos about you, that's where it becomes irreversible. But let's say you're starting brands like this or selling products and stuff, businesses that you put yourself out there but not too much, that's where it's more in the middle. So hope this shed some light in terms of my experience and my observation. I've been doing this social media thing since the past 8 years without putting my face out there, before I decided to start building my personal brand. Back then, like, I didn't know this, there was a difference and stuff, but hope this really helped point you in the right direction of